Yo, what's up? It's Tuna here again. I want to update you guys with what we did on day 1 for our project Ultimatum. So basically yesterday we just spent all day theory crafting the carry build primarily, but also the support build for what we will be going forward into our essentially our project Ultimatum. Again, to reiterate what we're gonna do is we are gonna be running mirror rare ultimatums as well as headhunter ones and things like that. So that's very exciting. So let me just start off with saying the bases that I wanted to cover for this project. I needed a build that is practically unkillable and untouchable at the same time. The reason why it needs to be unkillable is quite obvious. If you die, if the carry dies, you will lose both the host item and the replica of the item, so the mirrored rare. So you have the potential of losing 400x there, right? Secondly, we need to be untouchable because there are mods such as Ruin, which once that stacks up to a certain amount, you by default lose the ultimatum. So again, you lose your item and things like that. So to make sure that we are not losing in those scenarios, I tried to cover the base of getting as much spell block and block chance, some evasion, as well as dodge, right? So dodge is going to be provided, first of all, by the support. He's going to have 100% uptime on dodge cap because of his aura effect, right? And he will be using Triumvirate Authority. This will allow him to have 100% uptime on Val skills and will enable us to basically have a 75% chance to avoid all incoming damage. On top of that, I will be having a 71 block. So I have 61 block without a Mana Guardian, and 71 with because of the block that he provides, right? We achieved that by taking, of course, most of the block nodes, as you can see here. We took Arcane Guarding, Sanctuary, and by the way, this is without Glancing Blows, because if you were to take Glancing Blows, the hit still registers. The damage goes through, right? So that still registers as if you take a hit from Ruin. I also take Spell Large to get more spell block there. So yeah, essentially I have 71 spell block, and I am using Aegis Aurora. Aegis Aurora replenishes my energy shield by 2% of my armor when I block. At the moment, I have 48,000 armor. So you can imagine that we do 48,000 multiplied by 0.02. Every time I take a hit or every time I block, I will replenish 9,000 energy shield. Sorry, 960. Sorry, that was outrageous. Yeah, 960 energy shield, which I will be blocking 71% of the time. So essentially, every time I block, I will just shoot back up, right? Which is insane. So that's Aegis Aurora. On top of that, our Aegis Aurora also has 8% of physical damage from his taken as chaos, and since we are CI, that's basically 8% flat physical damage reduction, which is very, very cool. We will be using a Nebulous. We bought a Nebulous with 10% spell damage and flat damage to spells, so that is very good because we are 90% resistance all around. That's very strong. We will be using the Incandescent Heart. I think this is the most insane chest out there for playing with a support. The Incandescent Heart is just absolutely insane, right? Like, it gives us 20% of elemental damage as extra chaos, which, since we are converting from lightning to cold with Call of the Brotherhoods, that is a lot of damage. You can see here that it's giving me 16% more damage just from that mod itself. But most importantly, it gives me 25% of elemental damage taken from hits taken as chaos, which again, because we're CI, that's 25% all around damage reduction from elemental hits, right? It's incredible, right? As well as giving us armor and energy shield, this chest is just irreplaceable. The third item that we are using is Eyes of the Great Wolf, right? Now that you can actually anoint talismans have just become insane, right? Especially Eyes of the Great Wolves, in my opinion. So this one here is giving me 68 crit multi as well as 38 global defenses. 38 global defenses is currently giving me 1.8k energy shield as well as 5,000 evasion, 8,000, 9,000 armor. and as well as the crit multi, obviously. So you can see here the items that we picked out for my build at the moment. The Aegis Aurora, the Eyes of the Great Wolf, and 2 more items that I want to talk about here. So we have the Memory Vault. The Memory Vault will give me a lot of flat armor. This is an insane helmet for tankiness and things like that. So that is one of the helmets that I'm considering. However, thanks to Mr. Khan, I also managed to enchant this new helmet, which is a new one this league, the Glimpse of Chaos. So the Glimpse of Chaos is actually, I think, a very underrated helmet. It has a pretty big downside, but I want to talk about how we completely negate the downside while playing with a support. Because you can see that we get 40% reduced cold resistance, lightning resistance, and 37 fire resistance, right? I made sure that I had max roll for maximum mana and global energy shield. So that will get the most use out of that. So yeah, we have those 2 at a max roll, but most importantly, it has the Corruption, Skills Fire, and additional projectile, as well as the Enchant, Spark Fires, 3 additional projectiles. So that's 4 projectiles from this helmet, which is kind of crazy for Spark. So yeah, that's a lot of projectiles that will shoot out of that. It says your chaos resistance is 0, but GG has come out and specified this league that you know, chaos inoculation gives you immunity to chaos damage regardless of whether you're using a Glimpse of Chaos or not. So yeah. Lastly, in terms of defense, I would like to talk about the Watcher's Eye that I chose for this build. So that is this Watcher's Eye right here that you can see. This is crazy. This is 32% physical damage from hits taken as elemental. It's just absolutely insane how much it'll help us mitigate physical damage. And when we look at the breakdown, you will see actually how far we went with physical damage mitigation, which maybe I went a bit too far with that, but yeah. So this is a very good Watcher's Eye for that mitigation. And lastly, maybe we'll talk about the mediums, right? Sorry, let's talk about Blast Freeze. So Blast Freeze, every time I freeze a monster in a radius of 12, it'll freeze monsters around it. So that's freeze proliferation. I'm not 100% sure yet whether I want to use this because it's kind of prone to crashing. And I think basically crashes and game instability and internet issues will probably be the one thing that'll make us fail these ultimatums. So we'll have to sort of assess whether this is actually worth it, worth the risk or anything like that. So I'll test it first without, see how that goes, and then test it with, see how that goes. And yeah. So for a medium, we're using 1 Endbringer Purposeful Harbinger. I think this is essential Purposeful Harbinger because it just buffs the auras that I receive. It just gives us an insane amount of defense, an insane amount of damage. So I think there's no way that you can take that out since I will be reserving Heralds. For our mediums, we're going for Streamline for projectile speed and Aerodynamics for additional pierce and projectile speed on top of that. For smalls, we just go for energy from Naught. Each one of these gives us about 400 energy shield. That is insane. And yeah, so this is kind of what our tree looks like. Now let's talk about the Ascendancy choice. We were looking at many different Ascendancies, what we could have chosen. They sort of just had to be here up top. But the main thing that I wanted to cover was ailment immunity and critical strike, as well as having enough survivability and damage, right? So in the end, we went for the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is just insane. We're going to be taking Pious Path, so we are immune to ailments. I will be using a Ball of Faith, so that as long as we're grouped up together and my friends are on Consecrated Ground, they will be immune to ailments as well. This might be a little bit difficult in limited flask ultimatums, but the thing about that is that you press the Ball of Faith, and then you press another flask, the Consecrated Ground will remain. Even though you're not under the effect of the flask. So you're not going to get the damage bonuses from the Ball of Faith, but you will get the ailment immunity from that, which is insane. And yeah, so Righteous Providence helps us with critical strike chance. This gives us a lot of critical strike. It gives about 14.7% base, which is pretty good because we actually quite lacking on the critical strike department. But most importantly, Inevitable Judgment. This makes it so that we ignore enemies' elemental resistances so long as we have crit. As you can see here, it's a 40% more damage node. That is because we are so constricted in our gear because of how tanky we went that getting penetration is actually quite difficult. it's actually pretty difficult to get a lot of penetration on this sort of build. So this is actually quite a really good node to get. On top of that, I am using a blue nightmare. I'm placing it here so that this is giving me 10 spell block as well as a little bit of damage. And this Red of Hope so that we can pick up Arcane Focus. We can pick up Overcharge, which is going to be helping us a lot with charge generation. Since there is no single target encounter here, we will always be killing. So we will always have Power, Frenzy, and Endurance charges up. So that's very, very good. So that is about the breakdown of the build that I will be running. As you can see, once again, 71 block all around, 75 dodge, 90 max res, chaos inoculation, 17,500 energy shield. We have 56% evasion chance, 50k armor, and 90% physical damage reduction, which brings us to the calculations. And this is where things get a little bit out of control. We can tank a hit of 338,000 damage. And let's just actually double test it here. So let's say like we take a hit of 300,000. Okay, so if we were to take a hit of 300,000, we would actually die, right? But maybe let's check that if we go for 130,000. So we can tank a hit of 130,000 essentially. It's not going to break our armor entirely, but generally I'm calculating it around 20,000. So yeah, so a 20,000 hit, we have an EHP value of 338 for physical damage, and our elemental damage we have 5 million EHP there, and of course we are immune to chaos damage, and that is after the fact of all our avoidance, right? So overall, with all our avoidance up, we have approximately only a 3% chance to ever be hit. So that means that out of 100 times that a Ruin Ghost or a Ruin Projectile hits us, only 3 of them will go through. So it is very improbable that we lose to Ruin with this setup. It is very, very improbable. So now, let me go. I'm sorry, Block. I'm gonna talk to you after. But now let me go through ELESSHAR's gear. So the ELESSHAR's gear is what we're investing most of our currency into. Right now, we are 2 mirrors down. We sold some stuff, right? So we have 4 mirrors to spare. We still have about 2 mirrors, which we are looking to sell. I just priced them, you know, to see if they would sell for a little bit more than what they're actually worth. Essentially, he will be using this helmet. This helmet is insane. This is going to give us a lot of effect as well as reservation and things like that. Very, very big helmet. This chest is the absolute crown jewel of the support. You can see here +3 to skill gems with a maximum reservation roll and really, really high attributes. He will be socketing a lot of his gems, a lot of his support gems in the gloves. So that is +5 to the support gems here. It's absolutely crazy. These gloves. There's gonna be a lot of damage and a lot of defense that we get from these. So yeah. He is also using this right here, which is very, very nice shield. 300 energy shield, as well as giving him some 15% reduced reservation for socketed gems, some stats, mana, increased effect of auras, all that sort of good stuff. So it's just a very, very good shield to help scale his discipline, as well as help him reserve more auras. He is using a Simplex amulet. We are not yet done crafting this one. Unfortunately, he had T10ES, but we've just been forging prefixes until we get something good with a catalyst, hoping that we hit something good. So yeah, there it is. And the Watcher's Eye is very similar to mine. This is also going to give him 32% physical to elemental damage conversion, which is very strong. The Triumvirate rings, which will allow him to have 100% uptime on Val Grace. So yeah, that's going to give us dodge cap 100% of the time. Regardless of anything, he's going to be using 1 flask if he has to. And that is going to be Soul Catcher, which is going to enable that. And that's going to be the most important part. If we ever come across limited flask ultimatums. But yeah, there it is. And then he's got a bunch of these jewels, which, you know, you can expect from an aura bot. So just a bunch of stats, maybe some energy shield and 1% reduced reservation, intuitive leap 1%, Might of the Meek 1%, Conqueror's efficiency. So you can actually imagine that the carry itself is actually not the very expensive build. What we are focusing the most on is the aura support, because the aura support is actually always the most important part out of these 2-man or 3-man setups. As long as the aura support is tanky and buffs the auras to the carry, it's that's all you need, right? That's all you need. Auras in this game are absolutely busted. They're just insane. And for medium clusters, just first among equals, replenishing presence, you know, things like that. So yeah, he's just gonna be giving a lot of aura effect from these. Yeah, and yep. So that is the breakdown for ELESSHAR's build. Now I want to talk about essentially why we chose Spark. So Spark for me was an obvious choice because of how it scales with Malevolence. So its skill effect duration will make sure that our projectiles stay for a very long time. We will be using Anomalous Spark for 2 additional projectiles. So 2 additional pierce. So that we're gonna be standing basically in a corner, and we're gonna get so much pierce and so much duration that if we spam our sparks, literally the whole arena is gonna be filled with spark projectiles. And it's going to be freezing everything. It's going to be killing everything. It's going to be giving me headhunter buffs. So we can just stand in one spot and basically clear the whole arena. So long as we don't have to actually go stand in circles, which is something that we're going to test later on down the line. And yeah, the rest of the stuff is just Awaken Aligning, Echo, Control Destruction, Inspiration, that sort of stuff. You know, just damage links, which we might have to still optimize depending on what we're looking at. But yeah, there it is. It's a very basic setup for the carry. Spark for projectiles, a lot of pierce, and yeah, and this was also planned for limited flasks. So if I were to lose my diamond flask, it would hurt a lot, but I would rather lose my diamond flask and lose some damage over losing roomies, because that gives a lot of block and spell block, right? That gives a lot of armor. Even if we lose roomies, we are still at 90% physical damage reduction, so it's not going to really hurt our physical EHP. But it will sort of be scarier if we have like a ruin ghost coming at us or something like that. I just want to make sure that those bases are covered. Yeah, regardless of how tanky this character is, we still have about 9.2 million damage per projectile on Spark, which is insane. You know, the way Spark works is projectiles are everywhere. You're hitting more than just once with a projectile, so damage per second is actually much more than 9 million. Insane damage, insane survivability. I think this build that I and Stream have come up with is gonna cover all bases for this Ultimatum project. We're gonna be doing in the future a lot of testing in cheaper Ultimatums, right, with disgusting mods to see if I was actually correct about this theory. So yeah, sorry, this video is dragging on for way too long now. I'm actually very excited about this, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry about the very long update. Remember to use ExpressVPN with Raycon earbuds while you are on playing Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, thank you for not sponsoring the stream, so I don't have to promote your garbage. All right, yo, thank you, boys. See you soon. I love you all. Thank you so much.